the quiet town of Ravenswood, where shadows lingered a little too long, lived a man named Jonathan. For weeks, he had been tormented by the spectral presence of a steel-toothed woman. She appeared in the corners of his vision, her cold, metallic gaze piercing through his sanity. Desperation led him to Dr. Harrington, a renowned psychiatrist known for his unconventional treatments. Dr. Harrington prescribed a small, unassuming bottle of pills, assuring Jonathan that 2 a day for a week would banish the haunting apparition. Desperation outweighed skepticism, so Jonathan faithfully followed the doctor's orders. As the days passed, the steel-toothed woman seemed to fade away, her sinister presence diminishing with each swallowed pill. Relieved, Jonathan allowed himself to believe in the effectiveness of the cure. On the 7th day, he ceased the medication, convinced that his nightmare was over. The town, however, retained its eerie silence, and the shadows seemed to dance more freely than before. Doubt crept into Jonathan's mind. Late one night, he found himself unable to sleep. The room was shrouded in darkness, the only sound his racing heartbeat. As he glanced around nervously, his eyes widened in horror. There, in the dimly lit corner, stood the steel-toothed woman, her gaze fixed on him. Panic set in, and Jonathan's trembling hands reached for the familiar bottle of pills. He hastily swallowed 2, praying for a swift return to the peace they had granted him. Minutes felt like hours as he waited, the room seemingly closing in around him. Then, slowly, the steel-toothed woman began to dissipate, like smoke being carried away by an unseen wind. Relief washed over Jonathan, but it was short-lived. As the last trace of the spectral figure vanished, he felt a cold chill down his spine. The room remained unnaturally quiet, and a sinking realization gripped him. The cure was working, but not in the way he had hoped. Now, in the dead of night, Jonathan sat in his dimly lit room with a loaded gun in his lap. The steel-toothed woman may have vanished from his sight, but an unsettling certainty lingered. The cure had not freed him. It had bound him to her in a way he couldn't comprehend. He could sense her presence, an unseen force that mocked the supposed liberation. Fear gnawed at him as he realized the truth. The steel-toothed woman might no longer be visible, but she could still see him. The cure had intertwined their fates, and Jonathan's only escape seemed to be the cold metal of the gun in his lap. As he sat in the oppressive darkness, he wondered if the pills had merely traded one form of torment for another. The steel-toothed woman might not haunt his vision anymore, but the specter of her unseen gaze threatened to drive him to the edge of madness. The cure had become a curse, and Jonathan was left with a choice: face the unknown horror that lurked in the shadows, or embrace the chilling finality of the loaded gun. In the dimly lit alley of desperation, I found myself face to face with a shadowy figure. It emerged from the darkness, a silhouette with an otherworldly allure. Its voice, a whisper in the cool night air, promised me the trifecta of human desires: fame, fortune, and a love that transcended mortal boundaries. The catch, however, was chilling. The souls of 10 people I would never meet. In a moment of desperation and greed, I succumbed to the seduction of the shadowy figure's promises. The pact was sealed, and my life transformed overnight. I became a sensation, my face plastered on billboards, my name on everyone's lips. The fortune poured in, and the love I had craved manifested in the form of adoring fans and companionship that seemed to defy reality. Yet, as the years passed, an ominous cloud cast its shadow over my newfound paradise. It began subtly, with a distant wail that echoed through the corridors of my lavish mansion. I dismissed it at first, attributing it to the wind or the creaking of the old house. But the haunting cries persisted, growing louder and more desperate. Then came the day when my wife, radiant and expectant, went into labor. The air in the delivery room grew heavy as the doctor's face turned grave. A hushed silence fell over the room, broken only by the heartbreaking sobs of my wife. Our second child was stillborn, a cruel twist of fate that shattered the illusion of my perfect life. As I held my wife in my arms, comforting her through the tears, the truth struck me like a thunderbolt. The shadowy figure had demanded a price for the fame, fortune, and love it bestowed upon me. The souls of 10 innocent people had paved the way for my success, and the toll was exacted in the form of my own flesh and blood. Guilt and despair gripped my soul as I realized the cost of my Faustian bargain. Each cry in the night, every tragic turn of events was a reminder of the lives sacrificed for my selfish desires. The shadowy figure, now a haunting presence in the corners of my mind, reveled in my torment. Haunted by the cries of the unseen, I grappled with the darkness that enveloped my once charmed life. The fame became a hollow echo, the fortune a tainted wealth, and the love a cruel illusion. The weight of the unpaid debt pressed upon me, a constant reminder that the shadowy figure's promises were never free. In the cold solitude of my mansion, surrounded by the trappings of a life built on the suffering of others, I faced a reckoning. The shadowy figure had taken more than it had given, and the price of my ambition had left me a prisoner in a gilded cage of remorse. As I confronted the consequences of my choices, I understood that the true cost of the bargain was not just the souls of the unknown, but the very soul I had sold in pursuit of fleeting desires.
In the small town of Hollowbrook, where secrets festered like a poison, the twins, Lily and Taylor, shared an unspoken bond marred by hidden resentments. The air between them crackled with tension, an invisible force pulling them apart even in their closest moments. One fateful night, tragedy struck. The screech of tires, the shattering of glass, and the collision that followed left Lily's body mangled and disfigured. Lily's ghost, the spectral essence of her being, materialized near the wreckage, a silent observer to the end of her mortal existence. As Taylor rushed to the scene, tears streaming down her face, Lily's ghost couldn't escape the heartbreak of witnessing her twin sister beside her lifeless form. But when the parents arrived, the atmosphere shifted from mournful to malevolent. Taylor, with tear-stained eyes, addressed their parents with a chilling certainty. "Mom, Dad, Taylor is dead," as the town mourned the wrong twin. Unbeknownst to them, Taylor, driven by a hidden vendetta, began to weave a dark tapestry of deception. Taylor's manipulation of memories became a nefarious tool in her scheme. She subtly twisted the shared history of the twins, planting false memories in the minds of those who had known Lily best. To complete the illusion, Rebecca adopted Lily's mannerisms and speech patterns. She became a master imitator, mimicking every nuance of her twin sister to perfection. The town, caught in the web of Rebecca's psychological manipulation, remained blissfully ignorant of the dark secret that had taken root. Simultaneously, aware of the supernatural twist in the tale, Taylor actively worked to isolate Lily's ghost from the living. She delved into forbidden knowledge, seeking ways to sever the connection between the realms of the living and the dead. Lily's ghost, unable to intervene, became a captive witness to the unfolding nightmare. The ghostly realm became a place of solitude and anguish, as Taylor's manipulation and isolation tactics left Lily in a state of spectral despair. She sought not only to steal Lily's identity, but also to erase every trace of her existence from the collective memory. Casual conversations turned into strategic maneuvers, and stories were carefully crafted to support Taylor's claim that there had only ever been one twin. Rebecca, Lily, the town, already ensnared in the web of false memories, began to accept this new narrative. The name Lily became a distant echo, fading like a whisper in the wind. Taylor, taking on the full name of Taylor Lily, asserted her dominance over the narrative, reinforcing the illusion that she was the sole sister as opposed to the surviving twin. As Lily's ghost watched in helpless despair, she could feel the very essence of her soul growing dimmer. The knowledge that once everyone had forgotten her, she would cease to exist, haunted her like a relentless shadow. The spectral realm, once a place of lingering memories, became a desolate landscape as Lily's essence faded.